Hey guys, welcome back to the Golang Calorie Tracker application. We'll be using React for front-end, Golang for back-end. Let's get started. Today we'll start building the actual project. Open up your terminal and we'll say mkdir go calorie go and React calorie tracker. And I'll just add YT just to show that, just for my reference, it's a YouTube project that I'm building with you guys. So I will go into this directory and I will create two folders here. One will be server and the other will be front end. And I will now cd into the server folder and I'll go mod init. So in case any of you is from Node.js background and you're trying to do this project with me for the first time, a Golang project with me for the first time, then go mod init basically is like npm init. You initialize your Golang project, and the methodology or the code that we'll be following here, that we'll be writing here, will be very similar to what we've already written with our Golang authentication project, our e-commerce project, the Golang engine e-commerce project, and the restaurant management project. So the code is going to look very similar to that. So if you've done those projects, it's going to be a breeze for you and you can skip through it very quickly. You don't have to worry about a lot about the backend. But in case you're doing it for the first time, then I suggest you stick around with me, you follow every single line of code and you actually build it along with me, okay? So again, I'll repeat, if you've done this before with me in the e-commerce project, the restaurant management project, and Go authentication project, we're going to be using almost a similar looking code base. If you've not, so if you've done that, then it's very easy for you. You can skip the whole backend part, right? So the first 2-3 videos will be backend, then we'll be building the front end. You can skip the backend part completely. I think just probably, speed up a lot. And if you're doing it for the first time, I suggest you build it with me from scratch. All right. So here we'll say go mod init, and I'll just say Akhil / and the name of the project is Go React Calorie Tracker YT. Now you don't have to write Akhil github.com/Akhil. You can just say this as the name of the entire project. That'll work just fine. I usually do this because this is a best practice, because actually where this has come from, let me explain to you. So whenever you launch a Golang project, you're launching it as a Golang package. So anybody can go get this entire package and they can start using it, start interacting with your project. So this is how you launch Golang projects into GitHub, or to the world. Basically, you launch them as packages. So with npm, you get the npm website, npm.js website, from where you can install these packages very easily, the npm tool, the CLI tool. But with Golang, you don't have anything like that. So with Golang, you have to launch whatever you write, whatever package you write on the github.com itself, ideally, if you want the world to use it. And the way they will install it is they'll say go get, and then they'll write the name of this entire project. So this is why I say this, because I know eventually I will push this to GitHub. And even though this project is not going to be structured as a package that can be used as a package, it'll be something that you will clone probably and then run it as your own. But maybe if I was creating a package, then this would be the right way to follow, and that's why it's the best practice. Anyhow, so we'll initialize this, and when you initialize this, it creates a new go.mod file, which is like your package.json file if you're coming from a Node.js background, and your toml file if you're coming from a Rust background. I teach Rust, by the way, on YouTube. In case you haven't checked it out, do check it out. Anyhow, so now that we have our project initialized, I'll go ahead and open this up in my VS Code. You can do that as well, VS Code. The only difference between my VS Code and your VS Code would be that I'm on something called as WSL. So if you see this, it says WSL Ubuntu. Even though I'm using Windows, I use something called as Ubuntu on top of Windows, and WSL enables me to have multiple instances of Ubuntu. So I can have 16, 18, 20, 22.04, all of these versions running at the same time on my Windows machine. So this is a pretty cool feature, WSL. If you don't know about it, do check it out. So this is my VS Code. I have installed the top extensions. So whenever you go to extensions and you write Golang, the 3-4 extensions that come on top, just install them. You'll be good to go. The only extra thing that I have is tab 9, which helps me to autocomplete code sometimes. But even if you don't have these, completely all right. By the way, if you don't use extensions, that's a really good thing, and I always recommend not using extensions if you're training to be a competitive programmer, or if you're training to apply to really solid engineering companies. Don't rely on extensions, because when you interview with them, you won't get access to your favorite code editor and those extensions. So if you become dependent on them, it'll be a big problem for you. Anyhow, so this is why in my initial videos I never use extensions. Now I start using them because a lot of people who watch my videos, they said, hey, just show us extensions. It just makes the viewing experience easier. So that's why I'm doing it. I don't recommend using extensions. All right. So here we have main.go file, which is the most important file ideally in a Golang project. And then you'll have your models folder where we'll create the models. Then we'll have our routes folder. And that is about it. In my routes folder, we'll have a entries.go file. And we will have a connection.go file. Now in the connection.go file, we will be connecting with our database, which is going to be MongoDB. In our entries.go file, we'll have all the routes listed and the handler functions listed. And the main.go file itself will have the routes listed actually. And in the models file, I'll have my entry.go, which will basically be a struct. So that's it. It's going to be just a struct. So I'll say package models. It's going to be package models. I'm going to be importing something. What I'm going to be importing is go.mongodb.org. Now we'll be using MongoDB, like I said. So MongoDB gives me access to MongoDriver. MongoDriver is an ORM. Your Golang is not able to talk directly with your MongoDB, so you need a MongoDriver to be able to connect them and to be able to for them to able to talk to each other. And I need my bson primitive. Okay. And the reason I need bson is because I need to work with IDs. You'll see in a minute. So every single entry that I'm creating for, let's say, my journal entry or my calorie entry, I'm calling it as an entry just to keep things very simple, right? So I'm tracking calories, but every dish that I'm inputting will be basically an entry. So my breakfast will be an entry, my snacks will be an entry, my lunch will be an entry, and so on. And each entry will have dish, calories, and fat, and whatever I want to have. So I'll keep it very simple. You can add as many things you want. I'm just going to keep ID here. I'm going to keep dish. And I'm going to have how much fat that that dish had, and then I'm going to have what were the ingredients, and then I'll have the calories, and that's about it. You can add many more things like the MSG content, sodium content, blah 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 blah. The scope is unlimited. So you'll say object ID and bson ID. Okay. This is why I need the bson package. And then for dish, you'll say dish is going to be JSON dish. Now, a lot of you ask me in the comments, and I don't know why am I using star here? That's because obviously I'll have to pass a reference because dish is what I'm passing to the to Golang, and ID is going to be created by Golang, so I don't need to pass a star here. So I get this question a lot. Funny, I don't know, it's really funny why I get this question all the time, but here is the answer. Okay, so float 64, you have fat as float 64. You can have it as int also, not a problem. Keep it as float, and in JSON it's going to look like this, fat. So for each of these values, right, this is how Golang understands them to be. So struct, in case you're very new to Golang, struct is basically your own data type that you create. And struct is usually a combination of multiple data types. So like, let's say there are some data types like float and string that Golang already understands. And then we have primitive.objectID, which Golang doesn't understand, but with the help of this package, Golang is now able to understand with the help of primitive. Similarly, ingredients will be string, and calories will be string as well. So these are some things that Golang understands. Now, Golang says that you can create your own structs. So it gives you the ability to create your own structs or own data types, which are a combination of multiple data types that Golang already understands. So in collection, when Golang sees this, that, okay, you have created a new struct, which has a string, a float, a string, a string. So it knows, okay, what you're trying to do. It's able to understand that. Now, when you work with Postman, or when we send this data using, let's say, the curl command, or with Postman, we are going to be sending it in JSON format. Even our MongoDB understands JSON. Golang does not understand JSON. Now, this is another question that I get a lot, big confusion, that why doesn't JSON understand, why doesn't Golang understand JSON? That's because JSON is JavaScript object notation. So people coming from a JavaScript background, they assume that all of the languages understand JSON and are able to work with JSON right out of the box. That's not true. No other language is able to work with JSON right out of the box. So you have to do a little bit of tinkering here and there, just like with Rust. I've shown you how to do that with work with JSON. I've shown you so many times how to work with JSON with Golang. So what you're doing here is that Golang is kind of smart. So you tell it that, hey, JSON, in JSON, the value looks like this. So it looks like ingredients with a small I. It looks like fat with a small f, dish with a small d. Whereas for Golang, the values are dish with a capital D, fat with a capital F, ingredients with a capital F, I. So whenever we now convert the data, sorry, I'm so used to not using extension that I was actually manually pressing my space bar to format this, but it now formats automatically on Control S. That's one benefit that you get with using extensions, that I agree. I earlier had to use GoFMT at the end of every program just to format it out. All right. Anyhow, so I agree, there is a benefit of using extensions. Okay, so with calories, I'm going to say JSON calories. So when we work with the JSON data that comes to Golang and we tell it to decipher it using struct, I'm saying decipher, but the actual word is marshalling or unmarshalling, and then there's another word, I'm forgetting it. But yeah, marshalling and unmarshalling is the process of converting from JSON into structs, and from structs into JSON. So that happens very easily with Golang, because you have all of these. You've told Golang that, hey, in JSON it looks like this, whereas for you it's going to look like this. All right. This process that we're doing is very similar in Rust as well. I've already shown it, I think, in one of the videos on my channel. In case you're interested in Rust, do check it out. It's an awesome long language, and if you learn it with Golang, it's very easy to learn, because Golang is very similar to Rust. That's how so whenever I teach Rust, I treat it from a perspective that you already know Golang, or you might be learning Golang. So then I show the comparisons, and what you see is that Golang and Rust are very, very similar in many ways. Sorry. Okay, so that was our entry.go. Okay, entry is basically what we'll be creating in the database. It's our model, and now we'll work on our main.go file. Main.go file basically is package main, and it's going to have some imports. Now that I have this package here, what I can do is I can say go mod tidy, and it will then go ahead and search this package and actually import it. Go mod tidy also checks for go.sum file in your project. If it doesn't exist, it will create that file for you. All right, so going back to main.go file, while it does its thing, the command that I just entered in the terminal, while it does its thing, let's do some of our stuff that we want to do. So we have func main, which is where the program enters into a Golang program. Func main is the most important function, and the port for running the program. Now you could have your environment file, and you could read that environment file and get the environment for port variable. But if you don't have it, which will be what I'll be doing, I won't have any port variable, because I won't be creating an environment file, because anyways I can't upload that environment file in GitHub, right? I have to put it in git ignore. So it's your job. If you want to do that, if you can create an environment file, and I've kept that option here for you to read from environment file. Otherwise you can just say port as 8000 if you don't want the complexity added. Anyhow, then you want to have router will be gin.new. So this is why I said it's going to be very similar to the authentication project that we did, and Go restaurant management project, and the Go e-commerce project, because we're using gin basically. I hope when I save now, it's able to get gin for me. Yes, it was able to get gin for me. Awesome. Okay, so now this router, for our program to work properly, we need to be using the logger. You've already seen me, probably already seen me use the logger. It looks really nice when you use the logger. It shows you when which API was called. So it looks really good in the terminal. It also helps you to find out errors because you know exactly which API led to the errors. So I always use logger. This is like a middleware that you know, whenever you say use, not user, use. So this format is very similar to what we do in Express. If you're from a Node.js background, this is what we do in Express as well. We use use for using middlewares. Okay. And I'll also use course default. And now we can start creating our routes. So I'm going to have my post route, capital post /entry/create. So whenever I want to create a new entry, this is how it happens. Now I'll have this routes package here, right? So I'm in my main .go file. In my routes package, I'll have the functions that will actually handle these routes. So the handler functions will be in these files, in the entries.go file to be exact. So here I'll say add entry, but I'm saying routes dot. Now when I want to get that, I'll say here package routes. And here when I save it, it did get me course, which seems okay, but it wasn't able to ascertain or understand that there is a routes package also that I have. And to do that, I'll basically manually get it, because from my go.mod file, what I'll do is I'll copy the name of the project, copy it here, and I will say /routes. So whenever you want to import a package, your own packages, let's say, at least in Golang, in a Golang project, this is how you do it. So if my project was initialized without github.com/akhil, I could have just written this, and then I could have accessed my routes. But now since I have said that my project is called this, I'll have to write the whole thing and then /routes. Okay, and this is how you basically import a package. Could be an external package, could be an internal package in your own project. You can easily import them like this with using the absolute route. You always use absolute route, not relative routes. Okay, so you have routes.addEntry, and then you want to have router.get So I've written it twice because I want all entries and then I want entry by ID. So I'll say /entries, and here I'll say /entry by ID /. Actually, I need one more get, and you'll come to know why I'm using it. Ingredient. If you saw there, I was able to change the actual ingredient, that one ingredient for my entries. So this is why those routes are. The ingredient routes will be to read those ingredients and then edit those ingredients, specific ingredients. Okay, so we have all entries, and this is going to be handled by my function called get entries. Now you'll get these red squiggly lines out here because we don't have those functions set up, but when we'll create them, all these lines should go away, and we'll have get entry by ID and ingredient/ingredient. Here we'll say routes.get entries by ingredient, and now we'll work on our put and delete routes. So we'll say router.put. There will be 2 update routes and there will be 1 delete route. So like I said, there's something to do with ingredients where we can change that particular ingredient in that dish, or we can change the entire dish itself, all the entries. So we'll say entry/update when you want to update the entire entry, or you'll say ingredient. By the way, I forgot to put a slash here. Ingredient slash update slash ID. Okay, so here we'll say routes dot update entry. Here we'll say routes dot update ingredient, and for delete we'll say slash entry slash delete slash ID comma routes dot delete entry, and at the end you want to say router dot run plus port. This runs your server at a particular port which we've defined as to be 8000 if there's no environment file. And this is it. This is all that our main.go file is going to have. Now I'll see you in the next video, and we will then start working on our routes because that's the only thing that's left. We are done with our entry, we're done with our main.go file. Our routes is the only thing that's left, and we'll try to finish that in 2 videos. So the first 2-3 videos, basically we're building the backend, then we'll just focus on front end quickly and finish it. It's an easy project. It's not a difficult project, as you can see. No complications here. Very, very straightforward Golang, very, very straightforward with React as well. I'm just going to use the basic bootstrap, not going to be adding any type of CSS on my own. So it's going to be very, very simple. But we are using functional components. So in case you wanted that, awesome, this is the project for you. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. If you haven't subscribed already, you should, because you get awesome content like this, awesome value, right, for free. All right, see you.